The door clicked shut behind me, shutting out the cold night. I'd barely set my bag down when I heard her voice from the kitchen. "Callum." I followed the sound, and there she was, Isla, leaning against the counter like she'd been waiting for me. A glass of red wine dangled in her fingers. The midnight blue dress she wore caught the light and made my throat dry. "You made it," she said, smiling in a way that made it impossible to know if she was just being polite. "Wouldn't miss it," I said, keeping my tone even. From the dining room, Daniel's voice rang out. "Finally. I was about to eat without you." "I told you we should start," Isla called back, her eyes still on me. Daniel appeared briefly, clapping my shoulder. "Your timing's awful." Then he was gone again, heading back to whatever he was preparing. Isla tilted her head toward the counter. "Wine?" "Sure." She poured generously, then stepped close enough for me to catch the scent of jasmine and something warmer I couldn't name. When she handed me the glass, her fingers grazed mine, not enough to be obvious, but too deliberate to ignore. I took a sip. "So, how's married life treating you?" Her lips curved. "It's a loaded question, is it?" "It depends who's asking." "Shh," Daniel called again. "You two coming?" "In a second," she replied, her gaze holding mine for a moment, before she finally looked away. "He's been talking about you all week. That sounds suspicious." "It isn't. He's proud of you. You're the one who escaped." I raised an eyebrow. "Escaped what?" Her eyes didn't flinch. "Some people call it stability. Others might call it a cage." Daniel's footsteps drew closer. "Come on, Callum. Tell us about your adventures." While we eat, at the table, conversation was easy at first. Daniel asked about my work, the cities I'd been to. I gave simple answers. Isla filled in the gaps with questions Daniel didn't think to ask about the markets, the strangers, the late nights in cities I couldn't pronounce. Halfway through the meal, Daniel's phone buzzed. "Work," he muttered, standing and stepping into the hall. Isla set her fork down. "Do you ever think about staying in one place?" "Not often." "Why not?" "Because staying means making choices. Choices get complicated." Her gaze softened. "Some things are worth the complication." Before I could reply, Daniel returned, his presence snapping the air back to safe territory. We finished dinner, and I gathered my plate. Isla stood too, following me into the kitchen. "Thanks for humoring him," she said quietly. "I wasn't humoring anyone. Stayed through the whole meal without looking like you wanted to bolt? That's new for you." I rinsed my plate. "Maybe I had a reason to stay." Her laugh was quiet, low.
Oh.
"You're dangerous when you talk like that." "Dangerous for who?" Her eyes searched mine, and for a second the air felt heavier. She stepped closer to reach a glass from the cupboard. The space was narrow. Her shoulder brushed mine. "You're blocking me," she said, but her voice wasn't annoyed. "Maybe." We're still there when Daniel's footsteps approached. She moved back just before he stepped in. "Dessert's ready," he said. We returned to the table. As I sat down, Isla glanced at me, quick, sharp, unguarded. I told myself it was nothing, but I'd felt it. And I knew she had too. Daniel was halfway through pouring me another drink when he said it. "You should stay the night. No point driving back this late." "I'm fine," I started, but he cut me off. "You've been traveling all day? The guest room's ready? End of discussion." I caught Isla's glance over his shoulder, small, unreadable, then looked back at my brother. "All right, if you're sure." "Of course I'm sure." He handed me the glass. "I've got a call with a client later, so make yourself comfortable." After dinner, he disappeared into his office, closing the door behind him. The muffled sound of his voice started almost immediately, deep and businesslike. I wandered into the living room. Isla was curled on the couch, legs tucked under her. A half-empty glass of wine balanced on the armrest. "There you are," she said, smiling like we were already mid-conversation. "Sit." I lowered myself onto the opposite cushion. "That's not sitting," she teased. "That's avoiding." I smirked. "I thought I was giving you space." Her head tilted. "Do I look like I need space?" I glanced toward the hallway. "It depends who's asking." She laughed softly and sipped her wine. "Tell me more about Barcelona. What do you want to know? The way you see it, not the tourist version, the real version." I thought for a moment. "It's loud. Not just the traffic, the voices, the music. You feel it in your chest. At night, it smells like roasted almonds and salt from the sea. And everyone acts like they have somewhere important to be, but somehow they're never in a rush. Her lips curved, eyes holding. Mine, you make it sound like a secret only you get to keep. Maybe it is. She leaned forward, her shoulder brushing mine just barely. You ever think about staying in one place? Not often. Why not? 'Cause staying means deciding. Deciding means closing every other door. Her gaze lingered. Doors are worth closing. From the office, Daniel's voice rose, sharp and impatient. He was still on the call. Illa's tone shifted, casual on the surface, but warmer underneath. He works late a lot. I hesitated. And you? I keep myself busy. How, friends? Work, wine. She smiled faintly. Sometimes I talk to strangers about Barcelona. The corners of my mouth tugged upward. Strangers, huh? You were gone for years. That makes you almost a stranger. Almost. Her eyes studied me for a long second before she laughed, light and sudden. She put her glass down, leaned back, and crossed her legs, the silk of her dress catching the low lamplight. What's the worst place you've been? She asked. The worst. Yes, I want something unromantic. A place you wouldn't take a postcard photo of. I thought back. A hostel in Naples. No hot water. Sheets smelled like cigarettes. Every window rattled when the train passed. Did you leave? No. Stayed 3 nights. She raised an eyebrow. Why? Sometimes you learn more from discomfort than beauty. She laughed again, and, as she did, her hand rested on my knee. I froze, heat curling low in my chest. She didn't pull back. Her fingers stayed there, light but deliberate. That's very philosophical for a man who just admitted he slept on ashtrays, she said. Her voice softer now. I kept my gaze on hers. Maybe I learned something there too. Her thumb brushed once against the fabric of my jeans. We're just friends, right? I swallowed. Is that what we are? The corner of her mouth lifted. That's what I should say, but her eyes didn't waver. You don't look at me like a friend. Silence stretched between us. Not empty, but full. Like the space before a storm breaks. From down the hall, Daniel's voice cut through. Louder now. His call was ending. Illa's hand slipped away. Smooth and unhurried, like nothing had happened at all. She leaned back into her cushion, picked up her wine, and took a slow sip. By the time Daniel walked in, her smile was easy, innocent. We were just talking about his trip to Barcelona, she told him. Daniel grinned. I bet he's trying to convince you to go. Maybe one day, she said, eyes flicking to mine for the briefest second. I sat there, glass in hand, the taste of her words still on my tongue. I told myself it was nothing, a harmless touch. Wine and late-night conversation can blur the lines. Then my phone buzzed. Thanks for last night, followed by a winking emoji. I stared at it too long before replying. Anytime the day passed in, pieces emails I didn't really read, coffee that went cold before I finished it. That evening, I ducked into the cafe near my place. The bell over the door rang, and when I looked up, she was there. Small world, she said. Sure, I replied. You just happened to be in my neighborhood? She smiled like I'd said something clever. I was meeting a friend nearby. She left early. Thought I'd grab another coffee. You think I'm lying? I think you don't believe in coincidence. Her eyes glinted. Maybe I believe in opportunity. We sat at a corner table. The hum of voices around us faded until all I heard was her. You always come here? She asked. Sometimes they make the espresso right. She lifted her cup. We'll see. You'll watch the steam curl up between us. Daniel busy tonight? Gaze held mine for a second longer than it should have. Work dinner. The words sounded flat, like she'd said them too many times. We talked about books, films, places she wanted to see. Her laugh slipped out easily, but her eyes were quieter. When? I asked, "So what's keeping you from traveling?" She leaned back, thinking. "Timing," she said finally. "Life doesn't always line up the way you want it to. Doesn't sound like you're talking about travel." She smiled without answering. Her knee brushed mine under the table. Neither of us moved. "Tell me something true," I said. She tilted her head. "Everything I've said is true. Something you haven't told anyone else." Her lips pressed together. She looked past me, toward the window, then back. "Sometimes silence is safer." The way she said it, low, deliberate, felt heavier than anything else we'd shared. I wanted to ask more, but she shifted, changing the subject to the cafe's terrible playlist. We argued about music for 10 minutes before I realized she hadn't looked at her phone once. When the cafe lights dimmed for closing, we stepped outside. The night was cool, the air carrying the smell of rain. "Which way?" I asked. "Not far," she said. We walked side by side, street lamps cast. Her in soft gold, her shadow brushing mine with each step. "You didn't answer me earlier," I said. "About what?" "Daniel." Her pace slowed. "Some things are complicated. That's all." "Complicated how?" She stopped in front of her building. "Do you always press this hard?" "Only when I think the answer matters." Eyes searched mine, and for a moment I thought she might tell me. Instead, she put her hand on the door. "Good night, Callum." She didn't turn right away. Neither did I. There was a pull in the space between us. Something unspoken that felt louder than words. Then she stepped back, almost like it hurt to do it, and slipped inside. I stood there a few seconds longer. My reflection staring back at me in the glass. Asterisk the invitation came in a casual text. "Dinner tonight." I didn't reply right away. My thumb hovered over the keyboard before I typed "sure" by the time I got to Daniel's place. The smell of something roasting filled the air. He greeted me like nothing had shifted since last week. Maybe for him, nothing had. Isla was at the counter. "Slicing herbs?" She looked up, gave me a quiet smile, then went back to her work. Daniel opened a bottle of wine, pouring me a glass. "You'll like this one. Spanish." "Smooth?" I sipped. "Not bad." He grinned. "See, I know my stuff." Isla placed the cutting board in the sink. "Callum, would you mind helping me bring the dishes in?" Daniel waved. "Go ahead." "Finish up here." His phone buzzed, and he stepped into the other room. The kitchen felt smaller than I remembered. Isla passed me a stack of plates, her fingers brushing mine. "You came," she said softly. "You asked, I answered." Her lips curved. "I didn't. I set the plates down. You didn't have to." She moved past me, toward the cupboard. The space between us narrowed until I could feel the warmth of her body. She reached for a glass on the top shelf, her arm grazing my shoulder. "You're in the way," she murmured. I didn't move. "Maybe I like the view." Her breath caught. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because you mean them." Her gaze flicked to my mouth, then back to my eyes. My chest felt tight. "What about you?" I asked. She leaned closer, her voice dropping. "I think you already know." Her scent was warm, clean, and intoxicating. I could see the faint pulse in her neck. "You're making this hard," I said. "I'm not doing anything." "You are." Her lips parted just slightly. "Then maybe I should stop." But she didn't move. "Neither did I, Isla," I said. Quietly, her eyes didn't waver. I leaned in, just enough for my breath to mingle with hers. She mirrored the movement, slow, deliberate, the moment stretched, fragile, and electric. My heart pounded like it wanted out. Then Daniel's voice cut through from the hall. "Everything all right in there?" We stepped back fast, like the air between us had turned dangerous. "All good," she called out, her tone perfectly steady. She picked up a plate and handed it to me. Her fingers were trembling. "You're shaking," I said under my breath. Her eyes locked on mine. Maybe I'm not the only one. She turned and walked out to the dining room. I followed a beat later, keeping my face neutral. Daniel was pouring more wine, smiling like nothing had happened. I sat down across from her. The table between us feeling too wide and too narrow at the same time. Asterisk Daniel's text came in late afternoon. Flying out tonight. Back Monday. I didn't answer. Stared at the message until my phone buzzed again, this time from Isla. Come over. I need company. The words sat on the screen like a dare. I told myself it was just to keep her from feeling lonely. I told myself a lot of things on the walk to her place. When she opened the door, she had a bottle of red in her hand. You made it, she said, smiling like she already knew I would. I was nearby, I lied. Lucky me. She stepped back to let me in. The living room was warm, lit. She poured wine without asking, handed me a glass, and sat close enough that our knees brushed. You're quiet tonight, she said. I'm thinking. About what? Whether this is a good idea? Her eyes searched mine. Do you want it to be a bad one? I took a sip, trying not to look at her mouth. That's not the point. She leaned back, swirling her wine. The point is, Daniel's not here. That's exactly the point, I said. Her gaze didn't flinch. I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm asking you to sit here and drink wine with me. It's never just that with you. Maybe that's what you like, she said. Softly, the air between us felt tight. I shifted, but my knee stayed against hers. Isla, this is crossing a line. Then stop me. I shouldn't be here, but you are. Her voice had dropped to something almost private. I could hear my pulse in my ears. She set her glass down, turning to face me fully. Don't tell him, she said. What? Don't tell him, she repeated, and before I could react, her lips were on mine. It wasn't long, second maybe. 2, but it hit like a jolt to the chest. When she pulled back, I couldn't speak. My thoughts were scrambled, my breath uneven. What the hell was that? I asked. You know what it was? That's not an answer. She bit her lip, watching me like she was trying to read the damage. You didn't stop me. I didn't have time. You had enough. I stood, needing distance. Do you realize what you just did? Do you? Her tone wasn't defensive, but there was something daring in it. This isn't a game, Isla. Then why does it feel like you've been waiting for me to play? That's not fair. Neither's the way you look at me when he's not. Watching, I shook my head. You're reckless. Yes. And you're pretending you hate it. I exhaled sharply, forcing myself to turn toward the door. I should go. Her voice stopped me. Stay. I looked back. Her expression was conflicted, but her eyes didn't hide what she wanted. You just told me not to tell him. Now you want me to stay? I'm allowed to want both. That's selfish. Maybe I am. For a moment we just stared at each other. She was still on the couch, her knees tucked under her, fingers playing with the rim of her glass. She didn't apologize. Good night, Isla, I said, my voice tighter than I meant. She didn't reply, just watched me walk out. The night air hit my face like cold water, but it didn't wash away the heat in my chest. I didn't know if I was angrier at her, at myself, or at how badly I already wanted to go back. I hadn't answered any of Isla's messages since that night. The first one came the next morning. Did you get home safe? The second one, a day later. We should talk. By the third, I stopped looking, but on Thursday night, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, she was standing there in a gray sweater and jeans, holding nothing but her phone. You've been ignoring me, she said. I've been busy. Too busy to tell me to my face. I didn't think you needed. Me too. She tilted her head, studying me. Can I come in? I hesitated, then stepped back. She walked past me like she'd already decided I'd say yes. She sat on the couch, leaving a space next to her. I stayed standing. What do you want, Isla? Talk. About what? You know what? I folded my arms. Didn't say it. She looked down at her hands. I feel invisible. I didn't move in my marriage, she added, softer. Daniel doesn't really see me anymore. It's not my problem. Her eyes lifted to mine. You think I'm lying? I think you're dangerous. She let out a quiet laugh, but it didn't reach her eyes. Maybe I am.
God.
I'm also telling you the truth. I finally sat down, leaving just enough space between us for my leg to brush hers when I shifted. You came all the way here to tell me you're unhappy? I came here because I can't stop thinking about you." The words landed heavy. I looked away, but she leaned slightly closer. "You think I don't know what this is doing to you?" she asked. "You think it's one-sided? Tell me it is and I'll leave right now." I didn't answer. Her knee pressed against mine. "That's what I thought. This is a mistake," I said. "Then stop me." I turned to face her. "Isla," her voice cut in quieter. "Do you know what it feels like to be in the same room as someone you love and feel like they're already somewhere else?" I swallowed. "Yes. That's my life every day. And then there's you." I searched her face. The way she was looking at me wasn't reckless now. It was raw. Her voice had that break in it, like she wasn't entirely in control. "This isn't fair," I said, double quotes. "No, but I'm still here." The space between us felt smaller than it was. Her hand shifted on the couch cushion, close enough that I could feel the warmth of it. "If you're trying to make me feel guilty..." "It's working," I said. "I'm not trying to make you feel anything. I need this. This. You." She leaned in before I could think of another reason to stop her. This kiss wasn't quick like before. It lingered, deepening, until my hand found the side of her face. She didn't pull back. When it finally broke, we were breathing harder. I searched her eyes. "We can't undo that. I don't want to." "You should." Her lips curled slightly, but it wasn't a smile. "Then why didn't you push me away?" I didn't have an answer I wanted to say out loud. She sat back, looking at me like she'd just won something. But there was no triumph in her eyes, just a strange kind of relief. "I should go," she said, standing. I stayed seated, watching her walk to the door. She stopped with her hand on the handle. "I'll see you soon," she said. It's almost like a promise. The door clicked shut behind her, but the sound of her voice stayed in my head. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, staring at the empty space. She'd left. There are lines you can step back from. There are lines you can't. We just crossed one. Asterisk, the living room was loud with laughter and clinking glasses. Daniel's family gatherings always felt too warm, too crowded, like every wall was closing in on me. I slipped into the kitchen for a breath and to grab more drinks. The fridge door was open when I heard her voice. "Thought you might be hiding." "In here?" I didn't turn around right away. Just getting some beer. The sound of her footsteps came closer. Then I felt it. Her fingers brushing the inside of my arm. A slow, deliberate touch. "You shouldn't," I said quietly. "No. One's looking. That's not the point." "That's exactly the point." I closed the fridge, beers in hand, and turned to face her. She was close enough that the edge of the counter pressed into my hip when I stepped back. Her eyes held mine like she was daring me to push her away. "Where's Daniel?" I asked. "Outside. Phone call." "You planned this." "Maybe." Before I could answer, footsteps sounded in the doorway. My cousin Evan stepped in, stopping just long enough to take in the space between us. His eyes flickered from her face to mine. "Hey," he said slowly. "Drinks ready." I forced a smile and held up the bottles. "Yeah, just heading back." He didn't move right away. That pause just a second too long. Felt like it stretched out. Then he nodded and walked past us toward the ice bucket. I moved toward the door, but Isla stayed where she was, her voice low enough for only me to hear. "You're shaking." I didn't look back. "You're trying to get me caught." "Maybe. I want you to admit what we're doing. What we're doing is dangerous." She smiled faintly. "Exactly." The rest of the evening blurred. I laughed when I had to, answered when spoken to, but every time I glanced up, Illa's gaze found mine from across the room. It was a game now, and she was winning. Later that night, after everyone had left, my phone buzzed. "Daniel." I almost let it go to voicemail, but I answered. Hey man, thanks for coming tonight." His tone was easy, almost casual. "Everything okay between you and Isla?" My grip on the phone tightened. "What do you mean you two just seem close? I don't know, maybe I'm imagining it?" I forced a laugh. "Yeah, you're imagining it. We're fine." He didn't respond right away. The silence felt heavier than the noise of the party had. All right, he finally said. Just checking. When the call ended, I sat on the edge of my bed, phone still in my hand, replaying every second of the night. The brush of her fingers, Evan's pause in the doorway, Daniel's voice. One touch in a kitchen, and the ground under me already felt like it was starting to crack. Daniel's office was bigger than I expected. Wide windows, spilling sunlight over a desk so neat it didn't look like anyone actually worked there. Nice place, I said, setting the paper bag of takeout on the small round table in the corner. He smiled. Perks of the job. Sit. We unpacked the food. I watched him from across the table, but something about the way he moved felt rehearsed. Like every gesture had been thought through before I even walked in. So, he said, pouring water into my glass. How's work? Still keeping you busy? Yeah, deadlines, clients, the usual. He nodded slowly. Good to hear. I was thinking we don't do this enough. Just hang out. Sure, I said, but my stomach was already tightening. We ate for a few minutes. His questions stayed light. Movies, mutual friends, a basketball game he wanted to watch next week. Then he set his fork down, leaning back in his chair. You. No, he said. Illa tells me everything. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. I kept my eyes on the plate. That's good, I guess. Healthy marriage. Yeah, he said softly. It is. He didn't explain, didn't press. Just smiled and picked up his fork again like nothing happened. I forced myself to chew, but the food tasted like cardboard. Every answer I gave after that felt like I was walking across a frozen lake, waiting for the ice to crack. When lunch ended, he clapped me on the shoulder. Let's do this again soon. I nodded, but my pulse was still racing by the time I got back to my car. Half an hour later, my phone rang. Isla, the second I answered, her voice came fast, uneven. You didn't tell him, did you? Tell him what? Her breath hit the phone, like she'd been running. Don't play with me, Callum. He said something to you, didn't he? He said you tell him everything. Silence, Isla. I said, what's going on? I need to know exactly how he said it, like it was nothing. Like he was talking about the weather. Her voice dropped. He's not stupid. If he's bringing it up, he's trying to see how you react. Or how you react, I said. That hit her. I could hear it in the pause. You didn't tell him anything? She asked again. No, but now I'm wondering if he's waiting for one of us to slip. She cursed under her breath. Can't talk long, I'll call you later. Went dead. That night, every text from her felt like it might be bait. Every call from Daniel's number made my chest lock up. Even the way he smiled in group chats seemed like a test I didn't know I was taking. For the first time, I started to wonder if I was already caught, and he was just letting the rope tighten. The dinner was too quiet. Knives against plates, glasses shifting on the tablecloth. Isla barely looked up from her food. Daniel didn't look away from me. You're not eating much, he said. Long day, I replied. Long couple of months, he said, cutting into his steak. Ila's fork hesitated in mid-dash air. Daniel kept his eyes on me. I know. The room felt smaller. Know what? That you and Isla have been close? Her chair scraped the floor. Daniel, he raised a hand, calm as ever. I'm not angry. In fact, I should thank you. My jaw tightened. For what? For proving a point. He leaned back, wine glass in hand. This isn't new. She's done it before. Different. Man, same pattern. I told myself I was imagining it, but people don't change. Ilza's voice cracked. You don't have to do this? Oh, I do, he said, setting his glass down. Papers are already filed. She turned to me, eyes sharp. You're just going to sit there? You're not even going to deny it? I held her gaze. Would it matter? Her lip trembled, but she didn't answer. Daniel stood, dropping his napkin on the table. I'll leave you two to say whatever. It is you think needs saying. Not that it will change anything. The click of his shoes faded down the hall. Isla gripped the edge of the table. You could have protected me, she said. I was never here to protect you, I said. You made your choice before I did. Her face shifted from hurt to fury. You think you're better than me? No, I think I'm exactly like you. Only difference is, I know it now. I pushed my chair back, the sound loud in the stillness. I didn't touch her when I passed. The front door closed behind me, and the night air felt heavier than the room I'd left. Walking to my car, I thought about the first kiss, the spark, the rush, the way it pulled me in before I even had time. To think it wasn't love, wasn't even about me. It was her way out. I was just the easiest way through the door.